riding uphill with me. Avoid the dangers of conformity. A lot of us with no action. Destroy this corporate thing. A lot of us with no action. Destroy this corporate thing. Rape your ancestors for the power you need. We're not gonna give them
How's it going? Good evening, everyone. It's good to be with you here once again, this time on a Friday night. Friday nights are always light. We are going to chill. We're going to look at some fun stuff. We're going to talk about some news articles. I'm actually going to throw it to the Rumble and the Locals chat tonight, and we're going to prioritize those chats because I really want to hear what you guys are thinking. I really want to figure out super chatting as well because I'd really like to prioritize people who shoot super chat. Right now, I kind of go through and I'll read whatever anybody sends, and that means that some people who have more important things to say end up not being heard or seen. And I really kind of want to give precedence to people who have big, important stuff to say. So go over to Locals, SourPatchLyds.locals.com. There is a live chat on tonight's video. Thank you guys again for joining. We are going to talk about Joe Biden slipping and falling. On May 19th, I made the prediction that we were going to see him break his hip in real time, and this kind of felt like a ramp up for that, so that was exciting. But we're actually going to open with something that I just discovered, which I am loving so much. I'm going to show it to you guys in just a second. We are going to talk about Octopolis. Let me switch the camera here. Octopolis and Octlantis. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but these are octopus cities built by, I'm not kidding, a species of a kind of octopus called a gloomy octopus. So let's read this short little article from Wikipedia. Octopolis and Octlantis are two non-human settlements occupied by gloomy octopuses, that would be octopodes, octopi, in Jervis Bay on the south coast of New South Wales, that is New Zealand. The first site, named Octopolis by biologists, was found in 2009. Octopolis consists of a bed of shells, mainly scallop shells, in an ellipse shape, 2 to 3 meters diameter on its longer axis, with a single piece of human detritus believed to be scrap metal within the site. Octopodes, I'm going to call them octopodes because that's, I think technically, let's look up what the plural of octopi is. Of octopus, because I just don't think that's right. And I'm also not spelling octopus correctly. Yeah, octopuses. Okay, that's correct. I guess I'll use that term since that's what's correct. Octopuses build dens by burrowing into the shell bed. The shells appear to provide a much better building material for the octopuses than the fine sediment around the site. Up to 14 octopuses have been seen at Octopolis. These words are really tripping me up tonight. Forgive me. I'm not used to saying the word octopus and saying it so many times in a row, and saying Octopolis is really kind of spinning my head at the same time. In 2016, a second settlement was found nearby named Octlantis, which includes no human-made objects and can house similar numbers of octopuses. Both sites are within Boordiru National Park. Some media accounts have described these sites as octopus cities, but researchers who have worked on the site view this as a misleading analogy. And then they end it there, which is kind of rude because I would like to know why they call them cities. Because it seems like that's just a place where octopuses go to live. That's really interesting. So this is the actual bay, Jervis Bay, and it looks like a lighter area. I'm not sure what that means. Is it deeper? Is it shallower there? No idea. Let's see if we can click it and learn a little bit about it. 102 square kilometer, 39 square mile oceanic bay and village on the south coast of New South Wales, said to possess the widest sand in the world. 70 square kilometers area of land around the southern headland of the bay is territory of the Commonwealth of Australia, known as the Jervis Bay Territory. I was thinking it was New Zealand, but they are saying that this is Australia, in which case I stand corrected. My geography of that part of the world is shaky at best. I just thought that was so interesting, and now I really want to learn more about these octopus cities. So if you guys know anything about these cities, by all means, let me know, because I found it so fascinating. I really think that the octopi are going to take over the world before we know it, and I think that we are going to deserve it. It'll make the world a much better place. So we're going to talk about Joe Biden slipping and falling. It is absolutely terrifying that he was this close to biting the big one on stage, and this is at the Air Force Academy, which is actually in Colorado Springs where I was raised. I wanted to find this tweet. This is so interesting. Let's just read this Newsweek article. Joe Biden falls down on stage at Air Force graduation. President Joe Biden fell on stage on Thursday while handing out diplomas during the U.S. Air Force Academy's graduation ceremony in Colorado. The fact that it was in Colorado made me suspect that altitude might have been a factor here. If he wasn't properly hydrated, that could easily make him shakier than usual. Biden, 80, appears fine after the tumble, and he was able to walk away unassisted after being helped to his feet. The president pointed to what appeared to be a sandbag on the stage, which could have caused him to trip. But from my understanding, the sandbag was over to his left, and he fell to his right. So I don't really understand what connection they're trying to make here. I'll show you guys a video in a second. Biden also delivered the Academy's commencement speech, which was held at Falcon Stadium in Colorado Springs. During his remarks, he praised graduates for choosing service over self. Blah, blah, blah. Graduates, you made a noble choice to lead a life of service. Now you are also shouldering a great privilege and mighty responsibility. Leadership, yeah, leadership. He continued, in the years ahead, your airmen and guardians are going to look to you for guidance and inspiration because the world is going to get more confusing. They'll put their trust in you. You, in turn, must strive to always be worthy of their confidence. Newsweek reached out to the White House via email for comment about the incident. So here we are. This is, I think, the tweet that I originally saw. So here he is standing fine. Okay, let's go back if we can see. I want to see where he points. Ooh, what a thump. Ah, okay. So he points back, kind of pointing at whatever might have tripped him. But I am not sold. This poor graduate, too, as he's walking away, I don't think he realized that Biden fell right behind him. So he was just like grinning up a storm. He just got his diploma. He's really proud of himself. It's graduation day. So he had this big, goofy smile. And then the president of the United States is falling all over himself right behind him. It's actually a really funny plateau. Let me see if I can find that still. So he's smiling, 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 smiling. Yeah, and he's down and he doesn't realize that he's smiling. Look at this guy. He's like, oh my gosh, look what just happened. Oh my goodness. Oh no. Now everyone back there is like, oh no, what's happening? This guy's like, whoa, it's kind of funny. I feel bad because it's not funny when somebody that old falls. They can be seriously injured. We saw him fall off his bike. This is very much the same energy because he kind of fell in the same way. Kind of dramatic, honestly, but I do feel bad for him because he should not be in office. First of all, he was already too old when he first ran, and now they're going to try to run him again. Yeah, see, this guy has no idea. He's just so excited he got to meet the president and everything. Oh my gosh, this is crazy. Let's see what Molly Hemingway has to say. She's a very, very nice lady. She says, I gasped, I hope he's okay. That's just sad. It's sad for our country and just another sign of elder abuse. 100%. Christina Pushaw says, completely agree. I actually feel sorry for him here and angry at those who are really in control. Yeah, for sure. Giancarlo says this is just sad. Yeah, so Curtis was flashing back to CNN, MSNBC, spending 50 minutes analyzing Trump's ramp walk and his water glass. So I don't know if you guys remember that, but there was a point in time where Trump was walking carefully down a ramp, and these ridiculous networks decided to spend like an hour just looking at how he did that and trying to accuse him of having some kind of horrible neurological condition. But already Democrats are jumping on board for Biden and saying, no, nothing's wrong with him. This is fine. This is normal. But we know that how you walk can predict whether you're going to get dementia. And it really feels like yeah, exactly. Here's this article that I was looking at earlier. How you walk could predict if and when you get dementia. Really interesting. Unfortunately, it's not loading. There we go. Walk this way. How you walk could be an early warning sign of dementia, experts say. Assessing the way someone walks could help spot dementia. Most people with dementia are diagnosed once they're already suffering short-term memory loss, mood swings, or a lack of interest in day-to-day activities. I'd say Joe Biden is certainly demonstrating a lot of those. But experts at Newcastle University say that assessing someone's walk could diagnose the condition faster and more accurately. Riona McCardle, research associate at the Brain and Movement Research Group at Newcastle University, said that walking patterns change before memory and recognition problems start to show. She explained different types of dementia have different walking patterns. She looked specifically at Alzheimer's and Lewy body dementia. Lewy body dementia has the most impact on how well you can walk, as well as having an effect on your alertness and attention span. It's because of this that many people, McArdle says, are wrongly diagnosed with Alzheimer's. She says providing patients with the correct diagnosis is especially important, as certain drugs such as antipsychotics can be harmful to people with dementia with Lewy bodies. Evidence has previously shown signs of cognitive decline and Alzheimer's could be seen in someone's gait. Yes, and having taken care of people with dementia, there is a very clear and definite gait that they assume once they get into progressive dementia. They really shuffle, they drag their feet, they don't pick them up all the way. They're like very unsure, they feel unstable, but a lot of the time they can still ambulate up to a certain point, so they will like walk to the window and they'll not know why they were there. Honestly, dementia sounds like the scariest way to live your life. It seems to me to be like not even really living. So if Joe Biden is struggling with dementia, I truly do feel bad for him. I took care of a lot of people who had dementia who I was pretty sure had done horrible things when they were younger. They had no family there for them, and I assumed that they had estranged a lot of them. And I knew for a fact that I took care of people who had actually committed some pretty serious crimes. But I didn't care, because at the end of your life, you just need care, and the people who are looking out for you just need to be there to do that for you. And Joe Biden needs someone there to look out for him, not a wife who's trying to push him to be president for 4 more years. It's not going to work. He's going to die in office if she forces him to do this. This is horrifying to me. So hopefully they will give him a little reprieve. Hopefully he'll have a chance to recover. And I really kind of hope that they try to run somebody different in 2024. I don't think they will. I have no idea what they're going to do with Joe Biden, because I really feel like they back themselves into a corner. And I'm not sure where they go from here. So if you guys have ideas, let me know for sure. Let me see what the locals chat has to say here. Switch cameras. All right, now I got to see, all my tabs are different now, so it's hard for me to navigate because somebody changed something and now I can't find anything. It's like getting lost at the grocery store. Maybe I have dementia too. Center Conservative Mom says, oh, this must be Brie. Dang it, my name's still different. Sorry. Haha, I was tripping on my words earlier too. Yesterday, I accidentally said Dead Trues on my live stream instead of Ted Cruz. That's a great mix-up. I love it. Join the locals live chat, says Andy, for much great good. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Yes, so the thumbnail for today's Rumble stream is just the green that says that I'm not online, but we are on Rumble, we are on Locals, and of course we are on YouTube. So we are chilling. It's Friday night. Let us talk about the next topic. So this one was really interesting, and I'm just having an attack of compassion this evening because I just felt really kind of bad for this person. And you guys are welcome to disagree with me, but I feel like there's enough ill will and there's enough anger to go around, and people can really just calm down and have a little compassion. I also wanted to show you guys this Stone Toss comics. Let me pull this one up. This one really hit home because the trans movement, I'm going to use my words carefully here because YouTube doesn't like some of this conversation, but the fact of the matter is that the trans movement is promoting the active shortening of life for people. And it makes me really sad. And I disagree with Stone Toss on a lot, but I'm going to show you guys this comic and see what you think because it really just made me sad. It says, Happy Pride Month. And he's at a graveside and he lays a flower on top of a gravestone. And I said, it's sad. It really is. Underneath all the evil, actual people are truly hurt by this. And I stand by that because it's not enough for us to be mad about this stuff. There is plenty of evil to point out and call attention to because it looks very much to me like they're actively trying to hurt kids, which infuriates me on a level I've really never felt before. But this is why we're mad at them, right? This is why we're mad at them. This is why we don't want them to lie to our kids, because this ends in tears. A large percentage of the time, almost 50% of the time, this ends in tears. And that's soul crushing. If we valued human life, we would not be pursuing this. But doctors will tell parents, do you want a dead son or a living daughter? Which is the epitome of emotional blackmail. It's absolutely unconscionable. It's just disgusting that they ever say anything like this. This is the reality of the issue, unfortunately. It's not a good thing for the people who are lied to. And I get online and I go to some kind of dark, seedy corners of the internet sometimes, and I argue with people who are rampant misogynists. And part of me understands where they're coming from, but they tend to broad brush all women. If ever they're like memes, right? And they're commenting on these memes. If there's ever an image of a woman or a video of a woman, their first assumption is the woman is stupid and horrible because she's a woman. And I say, You guys need to understand, and you need to understand this about the trans movement too. Those people have been lied to by evil people, by evil ideologues. And we're going to talk about some of the ways to fight back against that, because Woke Distance went in and made a whole thread about how some of these MLB players could push back on some of this pressure, this like essentially struggle session nonsense that they're facing. Because that's tough too. That's hard. Nobody wants to be up against that, but we know it's going to be difficult. We are going to have to make sacrifices. We might not be able to buy from Amazon, and we won't be able to buy from Target anymore, but it's worth it if we can stop this stuff, if we can remind people how valuable human life is and how important it is to not tell people that a horrific surgery is going to be the one thing that finally makes them happy for the first time in their lives. This would be like someone with anorexia being told by their people around them that all they need to do is count calories more, maybe eat a little bit less, and then maybe they wouldn't feel so fat, right? You don't do the physiological things to try to make the psychological things go away. You combat the psychological in your head, okay? That means talk therapy. That means learning how to cope with things. That means like behavioral therapy and figuring out how to parse what happens to you. You can't always change what happens to you. The only thing you can change, as Viktor Frankl says, is the way you respond to it. And this is what we should be arming people with. But what instead we're doing is saying, you know what we should do? Here's a scalpel and it's going to cost you $100,000 and you'll be on these pills for the rest of your life. Here we go. And it's sickening and I hate it. But I wanted to show you guys this Glamour cover, if I can find it now. Let me close. Oh my gosh, too many. Yeah, okay. Introducing Logan Brown, Glamour's June Pride cover star. I'm a pregnant trans man and I do exist. No matter what anyone says, I'm living proof. So they've put a picture of a pregnant woman on the cover of their magazine. And they're a magazine for women. And to that I say good for them. Good for them, remembering what women can do. Because this is actually truly 100% natural, and I could not be happier that they're pointing it out. Glamour met Logan 2 weeks before Logan gave birth to Logan's daughter, Nova, to talk about queer love, gender dysphoria, and navigating the NHS, because it's in the UK, as a pregnant transgender. They say man, I say person, I will change their pronouns. This person's very heavily pregnant. It looks like they were right about to give birth. Yeah, so 2 weeks before the baby was born, yeah. So here's a quote from this person. I took a pregnancy test and it was positive. I'd been off testosterone for a while due to some health issues. It was like my whole world just stopped. Everything, all my manlyhood that I've worked hard for so long just completely felt like it was erased. That's right. Because something natural and biological happened to you that you can't refute. And good for this person for choosing not to get an abortion, because that I know is a tough situation to be in, especially for someone as psychologically confused as a trans person. I'm happy that they decided to keep the child. That child will now face additional struggles because this person, this woman, chose to take testosterone while pregnant or shortly before. At least she'd stopped taking testosterone before she got pregnant. I'm very happy to hear that. Hopefully that gives her kid a fighting chance. But we do know, from looking at this picture, that this woman has had a double mastectomy. She will never be able to breastfeed her child, which is statistically shown to be a better option for your newborn child. I spent so much time feeling shame and being hard on myself until I thought, you can enjoy this process or make it really difficult for yourself. Then she goes on to say, I'm a pregnant man. I'm proud to do what I'm doing. So it sounds like this person has a modicum of common sense and was just an inch from figuring out that how they felt about themselves wasn't in line with reality and coming to terms with it, instead of doing horrible things to themselves like cutting off their healthy body parts and taking cross-sex hormones that thankfully didn't, could potentially sterilize them for life. This whole thing just makes me super sad. And I know that we're supposed to be celebrating this stuff this month, but I think it should be a month of mourning more than anything, because the lies that these people are told have changed their opinions about how they're feeling. They've made them think, oh, I'm in adolescence, I'm uncomfortable. Okay, so I have people here who are telling me that this is because my brain is in the wrong gendered body. It's not. Your brain is attached to you. Your brain is affected by your gender's hormones. Your brain is affected by your chromosomes. It's affected by every part of who you are. It's not in the wrong body. My daughter will be able to grow up knowing that she will always be loved and accepted for whoever she is. And I think that's a really important thing for her to be around. This soft, squishy message of acceptance and kindness and friendliness and open arms is just such soft soap. I don't know if you guys are familiar with C.S. Lewis or not, but he talked about telling the truth. And he's like, you need to pursue the truth. Otherwise, you'll end up with nothing but soft soap and wishful thinking. And I was like, yeah, because if you tell people just the things that they want to hear, you're not giving them the truth. You're not helping them reach the right conclusions. And you're not going to leave them with anything positive. You'll leave them with a vapor and a ghost, and it'll be gone before they know it. You have to give them something serious. And this is my issue with politics as well. If you're not pursuing the truth, you probably shouldn't be speaking. And I know we have freedom of speech, but at the end of the day, if what you're saying is making the world a worse place by bringing in more dishonesty and more lack of truth, your words aren't doing anything positive for the world. That's just the bottom line. And I will say that about everything. And I will call out anyone who is not telling the truth on either side of the aisle. Of course, we can do that with Democrats, but we can also do that certainly with Republicans, especially really tribal Republicans from lately. Let's switch over now to how we're going to get through June. Consumerism sets the stage for Pride. This was a really interesting take. This is from Nate Fisher, writing for the American Reformer. And he says, buy nothing in June. Interesting. That's my plan. We're saving money to make our down payment for our new house or our new apartment. And that's going to be tight. That's going to make things tight. So we're going to really be focusing in. We're not going to be eating out. We're not going to be buying anything we need. Andy, we're not going to be subscribing to any computer stuff we don't need. I hope Andy's listening because Andy likes to sign up for computer stuff without my knowledge. June is upon us, and with it the widespread celebration of, quote, Pride. The left has made the vice that led to Satan's downfall into the centerpiece of their cult, appropriating a sign of God's covenant as its symbol, that is the rainbow. Sodomy is its primary sacrament. Ooh, this article is not mincing words. I'm not super familiar with the American Reformer, but I feel like I'm going to have to learn more about them and listen to their podcast. As this evil display grows ever more persuasive, many debate how to protest. I have one proposal. Aaron Wrenn reminds us that the right cannot simply mirror the left's activism tactics. We need ones appropriate for our position and ends. And we're going to talk about the left's tactics with this vocal distance thread next up. Rather than look at what the left does during June and creating direct alternatives, let's consider what gives them so much power. Many claim the corporate embrace of Pride should somehow embarrass the left, relentlessly, apparently a corruption or watering down of its original message. This is wrong. Pride is a celebration of self and self-indulgence. It's only natural that it's been embraced by large companies pushing mass consumerism, 100%. Okay, I'm going to be able to read it at some point tonight, I promise. Thank you for bearing with me. This points to a natural protest. Buy nothing in June. My colleague John Stokes made the suggestion, building on an initial post by Josh Centers. They did not frame it as a protest or as directly related to Pride. Both are from the prepper world and describe this as a test of preparedness and exercise in thoughtful consumption. But the concept immediately stood out to me. Consumerism neuters Christians, contributes to lifestyles where they are afraid to take risks, afraid to leave jobs at hostile companies that fund their lifestyles, afraid to take stands that might risk these jobs or professional advancement, afraid to adopt policies that would risk a Christian school's status in sports leagues, etc. Mass consumer marketing shapes desires, selling not just products we may not need, but a picture of a lifestyle we are supposed to aspire to. And as becomes starkly obvious in June, those pushing this lifestyle embrace vice and reject virtue. Boycotts may work in a few cases, most notably Bud Light, where the timing of public consumption dynamic, availability of easy substitutes, and regular data on impact all helped build momentum. But in June, nearly all major brands wrap themselves in the rainbow. There is no easy switch to a less offensive alternative in many sectors. But a response need not be targeted punishment for one company to be meaningful. It can be a symbolic rejection of the entire mass consumer lifestyle and an exercise in virtues that can help free us from the constraints imposed by such consumption. If we aim to buy nothing in June, we are doing both. And as John Stokes notes, there is a sort of liturgical balance in doing this in June, directly opposite the pervasive consumerism of December. I do like that. It is symbolic. Why is this effective? It's not direct rejection of the LGBTQ agenda celebrated by Pride, but it's a protest against the broader corporate system that gives this agenda its political power. Further, far from imposing a cost on us, as many protests do, it saves us money and directly helps us build habits necessary for the success of our movement. In avoiding the mass consumer lifestyle, we are setting ourselves up to take bigger risks and other challenges in this regime. Finally, staying away from retail environments simply lets us avoid the disgusting and almost certainly spiritually grating experience of spending time in a store bathed in blasphemous rainbows and an open celebration of sin. How practically should we approach this? For a few, buy nothing may be literally impossible. Stokes and Summers suggest that a month without buying is a good exercise of preparedness for any range of disasters. For others, will need necessities such as groceries. This need not compromise the core protests. Food of some sort is necessary, so not in itself a protest, a product of consumerism. And fortunately, supermarkets seem to be less aggressive about Pride branding. The challenge can be to avoid buying non-necessities. The real targets of this effort, and often the most prominent purveyors of Pride messages, are large mass consumer brands. So if we do buy a few consumer goods, say for a birthday or wedding present, we can buy from smaller, often local and aligned, or at least less obviously political businesses. That would be where PublicSq HERE would come in, PublicSq.com. This will not just avoid mass consumer companies, it will also help better aligned companies. Finally, some already live frugal lifestyles, often sacrificing things celebrated in a consumeristic society to allow beneficial choices such as mothers staying at home. Our participation in June can become a celebration of such thrift, recognized as a virtue by generations of Christians and imprinted into human lore by Benjamin Franklin. An intentional June protest offers a clear catalyst to make these cuts. And at a large enough scale, they could eventually grow to a measurable commercial impact, even if not enough to material harm large companies. But it also offers the chance to develop a more conscious approach to consumption decisions that can help free us of the highly consumeristic norms in American culture and prepare for the bigger risks and sacrifices that may be needed to challenge the left in other domains. I think this is wonderful because I have long said that what we really need to do is make sure that we change our perceptions when it comes to how we think the world is going to be in the future. So I was talking to my dad about this a while ago. I said, I feel like a lot of millennials feel betrayed by what's happened here because we weren't expecting, we were expecting a white picket fence. We were expecting a family house. We were expecting a single income household and all that other stuff. And we're just not going to get it. Over the course of that article that I wrote for Substack, I said, I think it's okay. We just need to change what we think about how the future is going to look. And it's all right. That's the essence of Stoicism, right? Is adjusting your views of the future and how you think things are going to be. But I really think that's necessary here. And I think that's perfect for us as we go into June, because I was talking about this earlier this morning and I was kind of hitting a brick wall because the issue is that if we go into June and we're like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to tackle the BlackRock. We're going to tackle Vanguard. We're going to tackle all these people. That's too big a goal, okay? Those companies are huge. They control trillions of dollars. And we're not really going to be able to get a leg up without some kind of help from some kind of non-compete, some kind of antitrust law reform, something like that. So what we can do instead, and I think this is a better approach, is what these guys are talking about, which is where we just don't buy stuff. And I love the idea of reshaping our views of what looks like normal in American culture. St. Miles, thank you for your little super chat over on Rumble. Going to save money to spend on Rant to Lids. Thank you very much. That is a good use of money for June. Somebody corrected me. It is not Friday evening. I've been thinking it was Friday all day long. I don't know why. It is in fact Thursday, but tomorrow we have our second ultrasound and I'm really looking forward to that. So you would expect me to know what day of the week it was. Oh well, way off base here. All right, you guys, let's look at some of this activist stuff that the left is doing. We're going to go to the wise voice of local distance. The Dodgers and Blue Jays both gave in to pressure from woke activists. This happens if woke activists have sophisticated tactics for pressuring people into giving them what they want. There must be a typo there. I don't fully understand what he means. So I'm going to explain exactly how their tactics work so you can fight back. Let's go. But as we just read, we might not need to fight back one for one. It is, of course, always good to know what we're up against, though. So let's read his thread. So here he is sharing this video from the Toronto Blue Jays, the statement from Anthony Bass, which we read the other day, where he was saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm going to use the resources from the Toronto Blue Jays to make sure that I never hurt anyone's feelings ever again. Oh, mea culpa, mea maxima culpa." 2, using the activist handbook Beautiful Trouble as our guide, I will show you how none of the protests, marches, or social media campaigns are spontaneous, but are in fact planned actions created by activists in order to exact concessions from whoever they target. I think we probably could have guessed that. The first step is called power mapping. What is power mapping? Power mapping is a tool to not only identify who holds that power, but crucially what holds influence over that person, and therefore who to target with your direct actions. This is how the woke survey the battlefield. So let's look at some of this. So we got target, boss, Jim, elected, church, peer, family, funder, and you. Okay, so if you want to exert cultural pressure on someone, you go to the target. If you want to exert financial pressure, you go to their funder. If you want to exert other kinds of cultural pressure, you go to the family or the church, elected officials. And then, of course, outside of that, you have their boss and then somebody else. It is difficult to pinpoint the exact origins of power mapping, but the tool has been used widely in advocacy and campaigning since the 1980s. The most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any, says Alice Walker. Interesting. Methodology, power mapping. Power mapping is a tool to not only identify who holds that power, but crucially, who holds influence over that person and who to target with your direct actions and campaign activities. So this would be a way of targeting how you're going after people and making sure that they know that you are targeting them. For example, if you were Media Matters, you'd be going after people's advertisers and stuff like that. Then Vocal Distance next tweet says, power mapping is how the woke determine who has the power to give them what they want and how they can be vulnerable to pressure. Remember, the woke want to take power, and to do that, they need to know who to take it from and how. Power mapping tells them who has the power. Look at the diagram on power mapping from Beautiful Trouble. Note that it includes friends, church, family, everyone. The woke are looking for any angle they can find to put pressure on the person they are targeting, right? So this is an order of influence. At the bottom, you have not influential. At the top, you have influential. You have people who agree more with you and people who agree more with them. And then your target up there, influential and disagrees with you. Once they map the power dynamics, who has power, and the pressure points of those people, they have to figure out who to target. Sometimes the target has no direct weaknesses, so they have to go after them indirectly. That means the woke choose your target wisely. You must choose your target wisely because, in their words, you might not have enough power to push your primary target at first, but your actions may help you identify a secondary target that can be pressured to leverage their influence on the primary target. If done correctly, that can determine that smaller, more vulnerable targets can be pressured and leveraged to go after much bigger targets, like a domino effect where a small domino knocking over progressively larger dominoes, like this meme image I know you guys all remember. So this used to be, in 2020, it was someone eats a bowl of soup, and up here it was, we're shutting down cities across the world. It's a very exciting time. See how that works? They map the power dynamics, figure out who has power, figure out where that person's pressure points are in both their professional and private life, and who they can pressure in order to build leverage and woke momentum to go after the main target. To quote Beautiful Trouble, you might not have enough power to push your primary target at first, but your actions might help you identify a secondary target, right? Once they pick a target, they analyze the spectrum of allies. The idea behind the spectrum of allies is that society isn't divided into those who are for you and those who are against you. Society is a spectrum of various opinions on all sides, and the woke want to know who stands where. That just sounds smart. The woke determine the social blocks to play in, the people groups involved, and put them into 5 categories. Active allies who fight with them, passive allies who agree but don't act, neutrals, passive opposition who disagree but don't act, and active opposition, those who actively fight them. I hope that to all woke people, they view me as active opposition because I'm pushing back on them in every way I know how. The goal is to shift each group over one notch on the spectrum, i.e. they want passive opposition to become neutral, neutrals to become passive allies, and passive allies to become active. If each group moves over a notch, that shifts the entire spectrum. The Dodgers were passive allies, allowing a Pride night, but not hostile to Catholics, and were shifted into being active allies. Blue Jays pitcher Anthony Bass was outspoken, active opposition who was shifted one notch into passive opposition and must be quiet. See that? As Beautiful Trouble says, movements seldom win by overpowering the opposition. They win by shifting support from under it. The woke realize that people might not really totally agree with them, but if everyone moves one notch toward them, they shift society in their direction. So once the woke have done all that, they act. The first strategy is to put their target in a decision dilemma. This is where they pick an action that forces the target to react but leaves them with no good options. The target is put in an impossible situation. For example, the Dodgers could either stand firm in their decision and get a ton of backlash from LGBT groups and media, or they could give in and offend all the Catholics. They are forced to pick a side and have no easy way out. That is a decision dilemma. This is such a great example of what this book is talking about. The same is true with blockades. If the police arrest you, you get to look like a murderer. If they don't, you now control the road. Police have no good choices. Decision dilemmas are paired with another strategy. The real action of your target's reaction is your target's reaction. Ton of typos in here. Proofread your tweets, Wokel. I know, I'm one to talk. The goal is for the target to react to the woke pressure tactics, but to react in a way that the woke can take advantage of. It is luring the target into a woke trap. So what the woke will do is force you into a situation where no matter how hard you try to please them, they'll just say it isn't good enough. That's right. And I was talking about this yesterday. Historically oppressed, marginalized peoples will always be historically marginalized. You can't take that back. And that makes us into a kind of religious battle. There's no fixing that. It is an original sin. These people were oppressed in the past. That was a crime committed against them that can never be redeemed. And demand more. If you don't give them in, you get called a bigot. If you do give in, they just ask for more and demand more. And we see this again and again. This is constant. We have every example of this. Any reaction you give creates more publicity, draws more attention to the fight, and creates more bad publicity for you. See how that works? The whole point is to leave you with only bad options in hopes you'll just cave completely. Once all this is going on and the woke have done an action, protests, boycott, demands, etc., they now have to win the fight in the media. They have tactics for this as well. First is seize the means of communication. Of course, they're great at that. So how do you do that? Well, Beautiful Trouble does not say exactly, but they tell us one way you might do that, and it is to do the media's work for them. Basically, give the journalists a story you want them to write and let them print it so it looks authentic. Smart. This is how woke activist talking points come out of the mouths of so many journalists. Further, they want to make sure that they tape their own events, publicize their own events, and try to wage a sort of narrative warfare that allows them to control the narrative. Again, none of this is organic or spontaneous. It is all planned. Part of the narrative control is to play the audience that isn't there. Play to the audience that isn't there. The idea here is simple. The largest audience isn't the people at a given event. It's simply on social media. It's people on social media and on cable news. Well, they are correct about that, and we saw that in the case of the woman in New York City who pushed back against those 5 guys who were trying to steal a bike from her. And I think that he's right, and I think this is wonderful, and I'm really glad that he gave us a resource to use. This book's called Beautiful Trouble. It's called A Toolbox for Revolution. It's assembled by Andrew Boyd. Interesting. So it's a bunch of different ideas. So you know how they're always talking about how the right and people they oppose are using these power dynamics to try to get ahead? That's because they're projecting and they're using Alinsky's rules for radicals, where it says to accuse the other side of exactly what you are doing. That is what they are doing. They are going for the power, and it's very clear, impossible to deny, that power is the name of their game, and they're not going to change it going forward. Definitely something good to know. You guys should check out this book. Maybe we should do this as part of our book club. Andy, what do you think? That would be a lot of fun. All right, you guys, I thought it was a great thread from Local Distance. He's a very smart guy. If you don't follow him on Twitter, you certainly should. Let me see if I can pop out the YouTube chat and see what the peeps have been saying over there, because I had to minimize and get out of the way earlier. Andy's over there. Awesome. Keenan says, octopi cities are the shallow water, which makes them prefer the lighter dip. Ah, I see. Wonderful. Wonderful choice. Anyone who prefers the lighter dip is good in my book, for sure. Scroll down a bit there. All right. Yes. And Locals is a wonderful place to chat as well if you want to get in there on the socials too. Niall Snipe says, howdy from Tucson. Sorry I'm late. Please don't have me sent to the dungeon. Oh, queen of the trad. I will not do that. Don't worry. Go take Andy's poll, except it might already be over. He was asking how we want this presidency to end, and he gives you the option to vote for an asteroid. So go over and vote one way or the other on that poll for sure. All right. It is warm in this room. It's making me very sleepy. Wishing I'd brought water in here. This was a really interesting story that I just saw in passing that I definitely want to touch on before we close here. Got a few more minutes. New from Betsy Woodruff Swan, whom I believe is just a journalist for, I forget where. Let me see if I can pull up her name. Yep, national correspondent at Politico. Yeah. Hunter Biden's lawyers have told the Department of Justice that if he's charged with owning a gun as a drug user, which is illegal, they will argue the ban is unconstitutional under the Second Amendment. Holy cow, I love it. I love it. This is by far the least of Hunter Biden's sins, okay? I think that probably his biggest sin is engaging in horribly licentious acts, possibly with underage people, peddling his father's influence, using all sorts of alternative substances, engaging in prostitution, stuff like that, and just generally being an absolutely awful human being. The gun thing was never a big deal. Oh, this person blocked me because I said every single conservative is absolutely rooting for this. Finally, your side will have to argue our point of view. And this guy said, I'm sure the NRA will be filing an amicus in support of his rights, right? And I said, probably, but he's a criminal in so many other ways too. And this other person said, I'd just like to see him drift out of sight. And I was like, no. I said, why? So he can sell his father's influence more efficiently, because that does appear to be what he's doing. He appears to be accepting bribes from people so that he can peddle his father's influence, for lack of a better word. Forrest says Democrats should want him prosecuted, right? He violated a gun control law. Somebody else says several laws. I look forward to hearing MAGA 2A absolutist responses. This whole comment section is full of those responses. We think this is hilarious. I'm not MAGA. I'm just a very big on the 2A thing because it is one of the constitutional rights that we are entitled to that come from God and not the government. But let's read a little bit of the article from Politico. Could Hunter Biden be the next poster child for Second Amendment rights? And I know the left is kind of laughing about this, but this is actually kind of interesting. Let's read. The president's son is under investigation for potentially breaking the law banning drug users from owning guns, but the law's constitutionality faces growing challenges. I want to stop here and point out that Politico is very carefully tap dancing around Hunter Biden's laptop, the story of which was suppressed right before the election by Twitter, tap dancing around illegal drug use, tap dancing around like horrific charges of possible human trafficking, and like I said, marketing his father's influence and bribery and collusion and all this other stuff. They're just focusing on this one thing because everything else looks really bad. But I feel like if we started to look at this, we could get into some of the other stuff too. So I feel optimistic about it. I think it's hilarious. Left thinks this is a win. Pretty sure they have no idea what they're talking about, but we'll see what happens going forward. I'm going to scroll to the bottom and see what Betsy says at the end. Let's see. Given the conflicting rulings in the lower courts, the Supreme Court may one day have to resolve the statute's constitutionality, and it's not obvious how the court's conservative majority would view the issue. Jacob Charles, a professor at Pepperdine's Caruso School of Law who studies gun law, said that Justice Samuel Alito could be particularly ambivalent. I could see him going either way, Charles said, obviously in favor of gun rights, but also in favor of strong law enforcement. Andrew Willinger, the head of the Duke Center for Firearms Law, said that he would be surprised to see this statute thrown out as a whole. I personally doubt that the prohibition would fall entirely, he said. Well, very interesting to see. Very curious what happens, but we know that they're trying to cover up everything that Hunter Biden has actually done. In fact, I wanted to discuss this other Hunter Biden thing. A bunch of pictures came out from Hunter Biden's laptop, nearly 10,000 pictures. Let's read a little bit about that from National Review. Thousands of photos from first son Hunter Biden's laptop have been made publicly available via a website called BidenLaptopMedia.com. The site was launched by the nonprofit research group Exposing Corruption and Blackmail, Marco Polo, headed by former Trump White House aide Garrett Ziegler. Ziegler stated that it took his team months to review and redact the photos, which spanned from 2008 to 2019. He emphasized that the aim of the website is to provide truth and transparency, allowing the American people to see what the first family is like without excluding photos that may portray the Bidens in a negative light. We're not Republican activists. None of us are registered Republicans, Ziegler told Fox News. In fact, I loved to and still love Trump precisely because he wasn't a standard Republican. This is not a hit job. We're going to keep all the photos that paint the Bidens in a good light and keep all the photos that paint them in a bad light. The American people can judge for themselves what they think about their first family through this. Ziegler mentioned that the website will display the images chronologically, covering a significant period of the first family's life, and further stated that the project is an extensive expose of an American first family during their time in office, surpassing a level of detail typically seen only when the presidential archives are made available. The White House and Hunter Biden's attorney did not respond to requests for comment, and I am so curious what happens with this because I, for one, did not want to see the pictures at all. I've seen some of them, and they're stupid and disgusting and horrible, and there's a lot of crack pipes, and there's a lot of hookers, and there's a lot of nudity, and it's just kind of gross. Disgusting. Stevie J says 4chan hacked Hunter's cloud account, and he made everything available. I do think that at least some of this stuff should be redacted because it could possibly be a national security risk if other countries are looking at that. But at the same time, we already know that Hunter Biden for sure has sold a lot of that influence, so it might actually already be too late as far as that is concerned. Let's read this poll that Andy put together because it was a great poll. Yeah, we got 306 votes. Let's see what you guys said. Tried Queen Story Hour is now streaming live. Best case scenario, if Biden fails, falls, and dies, President Corpse Puppet or President Kamala. 4.9% said President Kamala Harris. 32.7% said Weekend at Bernie's. And 62.4% said Asteroid, please. And my friend Ben said, shouldn't have put the asteroid, LOL, easy choice. Yeah, definitely. Implying we already aren't at Weekend at Bernie's. Yeah, that's true. That's fair. That's true. Put us all out of our misery. Somebody else said this thing and posted a picture of Sam Brinton. That's a very exciting picture. There's still 3 more Bidens in the basement. Probably so. This is a good take. Instead of praying for an asteroid, I am praying for the second coming of Jesus. It accomplishes the same thing, just better and holier. And then this other person said, my work here is done. They're the only vote, and they say asteroid, please. And that is, in fact, 2-1. So there you go. Oh, somebody else says Kamala has been / is the president. I don't think she's the brains behind this operation. Have you heard that woman speak? I don't think she's the brains behind her own operation, honestly. I don't think she's got a lot of brains going on at all. Let's read a little bit about why the media is covering for AOC, and then I'm going to close, and I'm going to go drink some water, and we'll call it a night. Why the media is rushing to defend AOC's honor from the Washington Free Beacon, covering the enemies of freedom the way the mainstream media won't, as we recall. There's a parody account mocking Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and the liberal media is scandalized. Here's AOC's press something. AOC Press, this might be the wine talking, but I've got a crush on Elon Musk. The account tags him. Elon Musk responds, fire emoji, which is so funny. I love it so much. I love this kind of stuff. I truly appreciate memes. It's really a good way of keeping up on what people are thinking out there in the world. Journalists appear to share Ocasio-Cortez's concern, of course, about the account, like I talked about yesterday, where CNN went after this one guy who literally worked in a loading dock, and they were like, you are going to be in so much trouble. We're going to ruin your life if you don't remove this meme of President Trump, body slamming CNN as another wrestler. And they did everything in their power to silence this person, and it ended up working as far as I know, which is absolutely nuts to me. So yeah, this doesn't surprise me that the journalists are in lockstep. Is spreading disinformation, not to mention harassing the progressive congresswoman. NBC News says the account is fooling some people who read its tweets, bringing to life some of the fears about Musk's paid verification system that stripped legacy verified users of their blue check marks. And the reply is there's a mix of responses from people taking the tweets at face value and attributing them to the real AOC, while others point out that it's a parody account. It says parody right in the handle. People can't read, and that's not Twitter's fault. The account's most viral tweet plays into a sexist trope that Musk and other conservatives have embraced since his Twitter takeover. The AOC is secretly attracted to him. She acts like she is. She acts like a schoolgirl who has a crush that she's afraid of showing, so she treats him kind of crummy. Business Insider. AOC slams Elon Musk for promoting parody account after it joked she had a crush on him and he flirted back. Did he? He just posted one emoji. Get over yourselves. Jezebel. Oh gosh, good. Let's read Jezebel's take. I'm excited to hear that. The post by Ocasio-Cortez's impersonator has since opened the congresswoman to a vile avalanche of sexual harassment and creepy tweets, in no small part thanks to the lift from Musk. Pearls clutched. Consider them done. The fact checkers rushed in. Reuters, fact check. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez did not tweet that printing money is the only way out of inflation. But it does sound like something she would say, doesn't it? That's kind of their effing point. That's why they're satirizing her. That's why it's a parody account. Someone needs to tell her that she sounds ridiculous. No one else is doing it. Snopes. Snopes has debunked many fake AOC tweets in the past. One fabricated screenshot that circulated during the COVID-19 pandemic claimed that Ocasio-Cortez urged businesses be kept closed until after the 2020 election. In another, she allegedly called for Democrats to commence with The Purge, a reference to a 2013 horror film after U.S. President Joe Biden was elected. One question the media isn't asking: why is the over-the-top parody account, which is labeled as such, so convincing? Right. Not only does the real Ocasio-Cortez have a history of cutesy sparring with Musk on Twitter, she's been known to spread disinformation of her own. So here we have Ian Miles Chong. AOC wants so much to be a victim, she's now spreading conspiracy theories that Elon Musk personally messed with her phone so it wouldn't load Twitter, because technical issues can never happen, right? Right. The Week reported, just like Trump, AOC's appeal is to a matter of rhetoric and personality, not of policy, acumen, or relevant experience. That's fair analysis. She struggles every bit as much as the president does with the facts, but no basic norms about American civic life appear to have eluded her. She struggled twice to name 3 branches of government in a recent conversation. She is, to put it kindly, not good with numbers. She believes it is possible for the Pentagon to have lost track of $21 trillion in the past 7 years, a figure that is both larger than the gross domestic product of the United States and far in excess of the entire combined budget of our military from 1789 to the present. After this was pointed out to her, she responded by doubling down and making fun of her interlocutor's family. She has also insisted that the Pentagon received an additional $700 billion from Congress this year, which would have been roughly 100% increase in its budget. They were like, we don't want another fighter jet. Don't give us another nuclear bomb. They didn't even ask for it, and we gave it to them. But actually, they didn't, because the actual increase from 2017 to 2018 was $61 billion. But unlike certain billionaires associated with the right, Ocasio-Cortez has often gotten a pass from the media, or better. Here's from PolitiFact. Representative AOC was arrested during an abortion rights demonstration outside the Supreme Court. She didn't fake arrest. That's true. Technically correct, effing PolitiFact. Technically correct. The best kind of correct, according to Futurama. She faked being handcuffed. If you guys will recall, there was an image of her where she was holding her hands out behind her as if she were handcuffed, but really she was just walking with her hands behind her back. So, no, technically she didn't fake her arrest. She just faked having handcuffs on. It's almost as though the media isn't trustworthy itself. So here we go from Politico, if you'll recall this from 2020. More than 50 former security intelligence officials believe the recent disclosure of emails allegedly belonging to Hunter Biden has all the classic earmark of a Russian disinformation campaign operation. If you guys recall that was good times. Published under Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Elon Musk Media, Twitter. Yeah, and Drew Holden back in the game after some time out to battle a brain issue, from my understanding. So glad Drew is back. Drew makes fantastic threads. He brings the receipts. If you guys don't follow him, he is, I think, at Drew Holden. Let's see here. Twitter.com/Drew. No, that's not him. Dang it. Annoying. I hate that when I think that somebody is just their first name, last name. Drew Holden 360. There we go. He is a great source of news. Wanted to give folks an update. I finished treatment. Latest scans came back clear. No evidence of tumor. Awesome. Very glad to hear that. I know that was something he was really fighting hard with and didn't talk much about. He used to have these fire threads with all the receipts. This man takes scrupulous notes. I love it. So, oh, this is great. Now in handy print form, my feature story for the June edition of Vanity Fair about how POTUS will deal with one of the biggest issues of his 24 re-election campaign and about what time means to a man who has lived through so much personal tragedy. Oh my gosh. Inside the plan to convince voters that Joe Biden can handle 4 more years. And then he collapses on stage just like a really, really old man would. Anyway, you guys, I'm going to wrap it here. Thank you all so much for joining on Locals, on Rumble, and on YouTube. Thank you, St. Miles, for your little super chat. I really do appreciate that. We love our super chats, and we appreciate them. They help us keep the cat and dog in treats. It's awesome. It's the best. And he says we should have a moment of silence for all the hypothetical times AOC could have been murdered on 1/6 had she been anywhere near the scene. That's right. Andy said this drop was redacted. Interesting. St. Miles says this will help tear down 2A red flag laws. Hopefully so. That'd be great. I would love to see the Biden name on the demolition of some of these ridiculous laws. We'll see what happens. I'm not going to hold my breath, but we'll see. Ads are okay if they pay you guys. Yes, ads are very helpful. YouTube allows us to monetize our videos, and they will put ads on them sometimes, and that is very useful to us. Thank you guys for putting up with them if they do come across your screen. Bree says, I had no AC on earlier as I was recording, and it was like 90 here. I was dying. Bye, Bree. Have a good evening. Thank you for joining us for sure. It is warm, and when I get warm, I get really sleepy. So I'm not really giving the best delivery probably, but thank you guys all so much for joining tonight. Hopefully we have some more positive news tomorrow. I really like the idea of not buying anything in June as a way to stick it to the consumerism. I think that's actually a really good policy, and that might just be something that Andy and I push forward. I do need some stretchy new clothes moving forward, and I did buy some of those this morning, not too many, and we had a little money in reserve to do that with, but it's true that we probably should kind of part ways with some of our consumerism, and that I think ties in really well to changing our understanding of what the American dream is going to look like. Because it's not going to look like what our boomer parents had. It's not going to look like the single income, white picket fence, home, vacations, new cars, all that other stuff. That's okay. No worries. Ads don't bother me, says that Zach. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. I will see all of you guys tomorrow, which I'm told is the actual Friday night, which was not tonight. Thank you all for joining us this evening. Dippin' Dot especially appreciate your time and attention. And for your super chats that buy them treats. They love you eternally. All right, you guys, until tomorrow, stay safe, stay well, stay out of Target. Bye, guys. How's it going?